Hello, you are listening to the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. Your host, Erica Sakosio, invites you to join her community of passionate and inspiring leaders in the ECE field, where she discusses, reflects, and shares the best ways to invest in our children, families, teachers, and community. Because after all, we know they are the heartbeat of any successful program.
Hey guys, Erica here from the Childcare Director's Chair podcast. Good morning, good evening, good night, no matter what time you're listening to our show. We are happy to be here with you. So we have started the Ask the Expert segment, which is where we get some questions from our Instagram or our Facebook group or inbox to us. And so we thought we would start answering some of these questions on the show. And if you have a question that you'd like us to answer, please let us know. You can really reach us so many different ways. We have email, we have a text to show, we have, like I said, social media. Any of those ways works for us. So let's get to it. So from Minnesota, we have a question that says, how do you manage operational tasks such as scheduling, billing, and facility maintenance to ensure smooth daily operations? There's a lot of pieces to that. So let's start with scheduling. So scheduling at our center is honestly, traditionally almost the same every day. My staff have set schedules. So with the exception of if somebody has an appointment or asks for a day off, they pretty much have a set schedule. Now, I know not every program does it that way, but that is how we do it. So we also use something called the ratio sheet. And if we find that we're overstaffed or understaffed any particular time and we see that that's like a consistent thing, then we will adjust schedules. Typically, our schedules look like a morning shift person, like a 7 to 4 or 7 to 4:30. And then we have the afternoon shift, which comes in 8:30 to 5:30. So usually I have one teacher in a class earlier in the morning so that every parent gets an opportunity to see teacher at drop-off. And then we have the other teacher, the co-teacher, work till closing so that there is a teacher available at closing. So what do we do towards the end of the day? So that might be a little bit skewed if you're picking up really, really late in the day, like 20 minutes or 15 minutes before we close. So we do start to combine classrooms towards the end of the day, like most centers do. So that way we're not overpaying or extending our budget on staffing. We also will build in time for lesson planning, lesson prep, picking up supplies, professional development, one-on-one meetings. So we'll build in that time too. So if we find, like if there's a particular day that we know accounts are a little bit lower, that might be a day that I pull a teacher out of a room to go do some professional development or to work on their CDA portfolio or to do a one-on-one with the education coordinator. So we have pretty set schedules so that way the team is able to know what they're working. And if they, again, like I said, if they need a time off, they fill out a time off form. We give folks time off if they need it. We try to make the schedules meet with their life. So if somebody says, I pick up my son, gets out of school at 4, then we make sure that that's the shift that we put them on so that they have enough time to, be able to go get their child and bring their child to dance. I do have some teachers that have done alternating schedules where my director, for example, her daughter, Sophia, she does dance on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So those are her early days. And the other director, either myself or Chris, will work the night shift. Work till 5:30, 5:45, but the later shift. So she'll come in the early shift. So we just, we try to schedule based on what the staffing needs are and what the family's needs are. And we do use ProCare, but we don't do scheduling through there, which you can, you can type it in and then post it up, but it's pretty much the same. We also have a private Facebook group that we use where we can post schedules there. If there are changes that need to be made, we put it there. So there's a few different ways that we manage scheduling and post scheduling, I guess. In terms of billing, I have to tell you, in the last year, that has changed drastically. So prior to this year, we were using QuickBooks, and then we were using a online terminal system to do credit cards. We no longer do that. I do all of my billing and all of my credit card processing through ProCare. I like ProCare a lot. We used to have Life Cubby, but we didn't use the billing option there. What I really like about the billing option on ProCare is that the parent can see the same thing that I can, which wasn't necessarily the case with QuickBooks per se. So if there is a mistake on billing, what's nice is the parents also catch it as well very quickly, as opposed to when I was using QuickBooks. And then there's no surprises either, like about an open balance, right? And you can send an invoice quickly, like at a touch of a fingertip. I just hit, resend invoice. So that's really nice, because before we used to print it out, give it to the director, who then gave it to the parent. If they seen the parent, like it delayed it a lot. Now I can send an invoice to somebody literally in like 2 seconds. And just for the record, this is not a ProCare commercial. I'm not sponsored by ProCare. They don't give me any money to say that I use their product. I just use their product, and it certainly has made my life a lot easier in terms of billing. Also, facility maintenance. So we have a checklist that we call a floor checklist that we will walk in the morning, a safety checklist, if you will. So we'll use that, and then the maintenance list is basically another checklist that we will use to walk around to look for not just safety things, but visual aesthetics, things like that may also need to be addressed. So that's, I use checklists for that. I think checklists are great. They're easy to use, easy to work with. And then depending on what it is, so we have a vendor list. If it's something above what our maintenance person can do, then we call our vendors, and all 3 locations have a list of vendors, so they'll know who to call if the AC goes down, if the plumber didn't, the plumber needs to come and there's a leak, or if the landscaper didn't come on the weekend, they know, they have the number to reach out and say, hey, what's going on. So that's how we use multiple systems to make sure that we have a smooth operation. I think the key is just having a system, finding what works for you and continue to use that, and then fine tune it as you go. Another question that they sent was, what measures do you take to ensure compliance with licensing regulations, health and safety standards? Well, I think doing compliance visits of your own and doing your own auditing is number one. And the more often you do that, the better, because when you do that, your team is going to be used to visits, so that when the licensing folks come, they're not nervous. And not that they should be nervous, but people sometimes get nervous when people are walking around their classrooms with clipboards. So the more that you do that, the more comfortable they are with that. Also, when you do your own compliance visits or audit visits, you're also going to be able to catch things that are not supposed to be happening in your center. Some examples that are maybe minor infractions, kind of, or not obvious, would be people putting something in an evacuation crib. Like I have seen teacher put a tote bag in an evacuation crib once, and I'm like, in Rhode Island, we're not allowed to have anything in that evacuation crib. It needs to be ready to go if there's an emergency, So things like that, that teachers may not always have at the top of mind. They're going to be things that are very obvious, right? Counting kids, making sure you can see where they are, you can hear them at all times, washing hands, keeping things that are not safe out of reach. So those are very obvious compliance things, but look for things that may not be so obvious. Like walk over to your refrigerator. Is the thermostat working correctly? Is it logged? Look at your cleaning list. Are they posted? Are they filled out? Check your children's files. Make sure they're up to date. So things that you might not see every day or look for every day, those are the things I really look for, because the obvious ones they're obvious. So I think, doing audits of yourself, of your program, your paperwork, and classroom visits, really important, which is why I prefer to be an on-site owner. Also, health and safety standards. I think this is kind of where being part of accreditation or being part of a Bright Stars program or a quality rating system really does help elevate your staff in terms of knowledge, understanding what is best practice, understanding how not only how these things are married, how licensing regulations and health and safety standards work together to provide high quality, again, and also accreditation. So I think that checklists are great. I hate to say that again, but checklists are great, and that is one of the ways that we make sure that we are on top of our game when it comes to health and safety standards. Also, professional development around health and safety, making sure my team has their first aid and CPR, making sure they understand what to do when there are contagious illnesses that have hit the center. Those are ways that your team keeps everybody healthy and safe. So that's my answer to that question, is how you manage those operational tasks and how you keep people healthy and safe. We have another question. This question is on curriculum, programming, and development. They ask, this is from Florida, can you share your approach to designing a comprehensive curriculum that balances educational rigor and age-appropriate play and social and emotional development? Well, that's a very big question. Okay, my approach to designing curriculum. I start with my framework. In Rhode Island, we have the Rhode Island Early Learning Standards, which has 9 domains. I also like to extend off of children's interests and my teachers' interests and abilities as well. So for an example, if I have a teacher who speaks multiple languages, I would definitely incorporate that into my curriculum. If I have a teacher who knows how to, is musically inclined, I would incorporate that into my curriculum. So I really look at my school community. I look at my community. I look at my early learning standards. I look at what children should know and be able to do. I look at what my kindergarten readiness checklist is from my local school department to see what they expect my children to know and do before they enter kindergarten. I tend to like play-based programming for sure. And I think again, because Rhode Island has seasons, I really love science-based type of curriculum that really makes children be curious about the world around them, particularly nature, and making it age appropriate. Again, that really goes back to how complex you make the lessons, what materials that we're using with the children, their social and emotional development in terms of what do I hope children get from the activities? How do I want them to feel? Do I want them to feel confident? Do I want them to feel proud of themselves? Do I want it to invoke some type of a feeling? What do I want them to share? How do I want them to engage in the learning that's happening in our classrooms? So those are things that are really important to me. And how do you ensure your program meets the diverse needs of children and aligns to educational standards? Well, the diverse needs of children, I believe that all children are unique and individual. And so the way that you may approach your teaching style with one child may look different with another child in the same classroom. I also believe in setting up a classroom in a way that works for typical and non-typical developing peers and children, making sure that the environment has materials that children have access to at all times, that they understand how to use them with or without guidance, that they understand what the rules are of the classroom and the expectations. And the educational standards, as I said, I use the Rhode Island Early Learning Standards to help not only the children, but also the parents. We do a lot of activities that children can do at home with their parents as well. They also have these really great family fun activity cards that we will share in our parent newsletter and help the parents understand, how they can extend what we're learning at school at home. So I think curriculum is, we could probably do a whole episode or two on curriculum. So that's a summary of what I would say in terms of creating curriculum and how to balance it. I think too, we're very diverse in our state, making sure that there is culture and tradition woven into your curriculum. Sharing music and food and stories and dance from other cultures is a great way to have a rich tapestry of experiences in your program. So definitely don't forget about that. So that's it for today's Ask the Expert. We'd love to get a question from you. Again, you can drop us a message on any of our social medias or text the show. And as always, remember, it's the small details that make a big impact in the success of your child care business. And you guys are the success of our show. We couldn't do this without you. So my ask is, if you are tuning in and you're loving our episodes, but haven't had a minute to go ahead and leave us a review, I'm going to ask that you do that today. If you could go to Apple or your favorite listening platform that you're listening to today and leave us a comment and a review. We would really, really appreciate it. It really does help. It makes a big impact. It only takes a few minutes, and that's it. I appreciate you, and as always, have a great day.
Well, all the cute little kiddos have been picked up and it's time to go home. And that'll do it for another episode of the Childcare Director's Chair. Please leave a review so Erica knows the information is helping you to manage and improve your childcare centers. Remember to subscribe to get the latest episode from Erica's Childcare Director's Chair.